of the oldest we're one of the oldest early educator apprenticeships in not only California, but the country, which is funny looking back on it now, like what's happened in the last 8 years. But we've served over 500 apprentices with our Head Start and state-funded childcare programs. And it's one of those programs that changes and adapts every year depending on who our target population is and what's going on with the program and what's happening with the workforce. And that says something, since we've had 8 years worth of workforce work and we're still like understaffed and struggling to find teachers, which I'm sure many of you are, which is why you're here today to hear about this wonderful model that we're working on. So this started as a result of about two years and a little bit ago, NHSA came out with a report called Broader, Deeper, Fairer that looked at issues around workforce, and apprenticeships was one of the recommended models to use. So NHSA with the Head Starter Network set up free work circles, work groups, work circles, work forces, task forces, whatever you want to call them. And we've been meeting for the last 2 years as an apprentice group. We came up with a recommendation list that we addressed and gave to the feds and many others to try and promote some of the work that we needed support with. And what you're seeing now is one of the things that we decided would be helpful is having webinars about people who are doing the work and giving an opportunity to share resources, strategies, techniques. Through the course of this, we developed a document called the Kickstarter Guide, like how to jumpstart an apprenticeship program, with some of our best and brightest across the country who helped put this together. And thank you, Tara Dwyer, who wrote the final version with the NHSA staff and the Head Starter staff. So that I think some of you have seen it. If you haven't seen it, download it. I'm sure Rachel will put it in the chat in a few minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and talk to the speaker and introduce the speakers. What we have today is we've got 2 speakers. I'll introduce them in a second, and they're each going to have about 10 minutes. You'll have some time to ask questions, and at the end we'll do a Q&A. So you'll have a great opportunity to ask questions and have some discussion. We don't want to be, like this is lecturing at you. So if you've got some ideas that you want to share and some experiences you want to share towards the end, we should have time for that as well. So very excited. First, I'd like to introduce Elizabeth Pufall Jones from I always get this wrong, and they're like around the corner from me, from UC Berkeley, the Center for the Study of Childcare Employment. And she is the Director of Preparation and Workforce Programs. She's got nearly 20 years of experience in early education and youth research, including stakeholder and community engagement. She's worked as an early educator and in early child to teacher prep programs. And she is coordinator and first author on several national research projects in education. So we are really excited to have Elizabeth here because CSCCE is a very big part of the new National Center on the Early Education Workforce. So Elizabeth, take it away.
All right, so I will start by sharing my screen with you all for some slides. All right. All right, so today I am going to talk a little bit about the National ECE Workforce Center, the HHS National ECE Workforce Center. And this is just a brief description overview for all of you. So the goal of the center is to conduct rigorous research and coordinate and provide technical assistance to advance the recruitment and retention of a diverse, qualified, and effective ECE workforce, like how Pam was just talking about, still needing to find and retain educators. And our work is designed to examine and address the need for fundamental changes to career advancement systems, compensation, and ECE workplace policies. We feel by addressing these that we will be able to work to recruit and retain, right? So we aim to dismantle inequitable systems and call out the harmful impacts of racism and sexism on the ECE workforce. And we're working to advance change across the full range of ECE settings, family child care settings, Head Start, private, nonprofit centers, FFN as well. We're looking across funding streams, across Child Care and Development Fund, state-funded preschool, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, all those different sources of funding and systems. So looking at states, communities, tribes, and territories. And so to accomplish this, the ECE Workforce Center will coordinate and provide technical assistance to the workforce. And we have rigorous research to advance change across all of these settings and funding systems like we were just talking about. All right. So who's funding the work? The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services through the Administration for Children and Families. And it's a $30 million award that begins January 2023 and goes through 2027. So that's, quite a bit of funding for several years that we'll be able to do this work. So who is actually leading and leading this work? So a core group of partners, Build Initiative, the Center for the Study of Child Care and Employment at UC Berkeley, Child Trends, Delaware Institute for Excellence in Early Childhood at the University of Delaware, the Institute for Early Education and Leadership at UMass Boston, and 0 to 3 are collaborating to provide this technical assistance and research and other engagement activities. We also have additional partners that are providing consultation and support and to offer advice across these different activities. And we are working as these six core organizations in collaboration, but Child Trends is the lead on this. And so just to highlight some of the key activities that we're doing right now. So since being awarded this very generous and large grant in January 2023, the National Center is in startup phase. As you might imagine, coordinating across 6 organizations to do both technical assistance and research does take a lot of coordination. So it's also a lot because we understand that there is no single strategy to achieve supportive and equitable conditions for educators. So our integrated approach that we're taking at the center uses the 5 policy areas that are identified in CSCCE's Workforce Index as the organizing framework. Those policy areas include qualifications and preparation, which is, talking about apprenticeships, that's where we're at. It also includes compensation. It includes work environments and well-being. It includes data and data systems and looking at the funding of early childhood. So the following key activities are planned for the first year, so you can look for them. We're going to be establishing an educator board and a technical working group that will advise our ongoing work. We're going to be conducting systematic research and technical assistance scans to identify gaps and innovations that will ground and inform our research and technical assistance activities. We're designing and implementing a fellowship program to support future research and policy leaders. So there will be research and policy fellows. We're developing and beginning to offer universal technical assistance activities through a foundational training series, webinars, peer learning opportunities, and curated resources. And we're going to regularly liaise with and convene a consortium of organizations focused on workforce related issues. And we'll also be launching our communications channel, including the development of a national ECE workforce hub that we hope will be more interactive and useful than some of the other technical assistance sites that you may have seen run by the government. And so, we can have questions now, so that should leave plenty of time for questions, but I've offered my email address here if anybody has any questions. And there's also an email address for the Workforce Center specifically. So if you have questions, you can write to workforcecenter@childtrends.org. And those inquiries are always being looked at and brought into our work and our planning as we're doing them. There. All right. And I can put those, I'll copy those email addresses and put them into the chat, but happy to take any questions that anybody has.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I appreciate that. Although I do have to differ with you, 30 million over 5 years, national center is nothing. It's not enough money to do what you're planning to do. It sounds like a lot, but it's not a lot. I mean, if many of us have Head Start programs that have, annual budgets close to that. So
and then when you're talking about, we get a portion, but then a portion goes to all the indirect costs, then you're not really talking about $30 million anymore. So, but I didn't want to diminish it in any way.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? You can either raise your hand, your virtual hand, or just unmute. Okay, I guess not giving people a chance to respond. They can think about this and we can do this at the end. All right, Heather, are you ready?
I am ready.
All right.
Go ahead, Pam.
All right. I'd like to introduce Heather Bryant. She is the Dean of Early Childhood Education at Dallas College in Texas. She has over 30 years experience in early childhood, from teacher, her favorite job is a kindergarten teacher, school administrator, director of research and training for a nonprofit, and now the Dean. In her current role, she's focused on creating accessible and affordable pathways for the early childhood workforce to achieve their goals in higher education. And they are on the verge of launching their apprenticeship program. So she has lots of hands-on experience in getting this thing moving. So Heather, take it away.
Thanks so much, Pam. I am going to share my screen. And Pam, if you could just let me know if you can see it. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Thanks so much, everyone. And it's great to be with you this morning. I wanted to spend just a few minutes talking about the work that we're doing at Dallas College in launching a new early childhood apprenticeship. So I'll just give a quick overview of Dallas College for you. We are one of the largest community colleges in Texas. We were the first community college to be approved to offer a bachelor's degree in early childhood education and teaching. So our first cohort of bachelor's students enrolled in upper level courses last fall. And more than 80% of our students are aspiring educators of color, bilingual, and first generation college goers. And I'm so excited because next month they will be graduating as seniors and heading out into the early childhood field. So we're just super thrilled and so proud of them. Our degree is also one of the most affordable. Our students can complete their bachelor's degree for less than $10,000 for the entire thing. And then, of course, we have many scholarships and sources of funding to support that for them. So that's a little bit about who we are. Our apprenticeship journey started about a year ago. We were awarded a $300,000 grant from the Texas Workforce Commission to plan this apprenticeship. And so it was really nice to have a full year to really think about how we wanted this to look and to partner with our collaborators. So in that planning year, we wanted to do a few things: bring in new talent to centers by matching our current students with apprenticeship roles, as well as upskilling the current workforce. We wanted to offer job-embedded coursework that would lead to a bachelor's degree at no cost to current early child care employees. And we also wanted to make sure that class training was embedded within the coursework. So this is our theory of action that really guides everything we do. So we believe if we hold racial equity at the center of our work, and create the most affordable direct pathways to an industry credential, and then co-create paid apprenticeships and work-based learning experiences that meet workforce needs, which will include expert mentorship, personalized coaching and feedback, and coursework that is skills-based and embedded, then we will significantly strengthen and diversify the educator workforce for partners. So we put together a committee a year ago, and these are some of the partners that worked with us and generously gave of their time to help us build this out. I have to say, Head Start of Greater Dallas has been the most amazing partner to work with. And I'm just so grateful to the expertise they lent us. We met monthly from May 2022 to February of 2023. 5 potential employee partners were part of this, as well as representation from our Workforce Solutions of Greater Dallas, Commit, which is a collective impact organization, as well as Child Poverty Action Lab. So we had kind of a broad range of folks that were supporting us in this. So we started out the first couple months really doing an employer needs landscape. And so we just asked a lot of questions, like, what do you most need for your workforce? And then also wondering from them, what is your workforce asking for? Are they even interested in, pursuing degrees? And so we spent probably 3 months just really digging deep into what the needs really were from the employer standpoint. And then we began to work out what this model might look like. So what we have done is made kind of a combined apprenticeship model, thinking about current workforce as well as current Dallas College students. And so the way that we're thinking about this is sort of having an influx of students who can work in early child care centers while they are working on their degree, and then increasing those number of students that are available to do that each year. So we believe this will bring in a steady pipeline of new talent, as well as incentivizing current staff, childcare staff, to remain where they are as they complete the apprenticeship. So one of the things that we feel like is unique about this model and is really different for higher education is we're going to do this in a cohort model. So in traditional higher ed, I think you know that probably like one professor may teach 6 or 7 different sections of one course. And so they may have like 250 students that they're trying to keep track of. The way that we're going to do this is we're going to put students in cohorts of 25 to 30 students with one professor that will stay with them for the apprenticeship, and because the coursework has been developed into online micro-credential models, that will be easier for the professor to be freed up to actually visit students in classrooms, provide that mentorship, and sort of take the burden off of them in terms of preparing class each week and doing all of the grading. So we believe this will be a much more supportive type of environment for our students. We will have a weekly residency course where we'll bring the students together with their professor. We believe that is really important for them to support each other and to get that support from the professor. Additionally, I should also say, so some of the 300K went to developing these micro-credentials and the online curriculum. Another portion of that 300K we used to hire, we're calling her a senior success coach. Her sole job will be just dedicated to these apprentices, helping them ensure that not only their degree plan is outlined in a way that makes sense for them, whatever their goal happens to be, but also to check in and make sure that they're receiving the financial assistance they need. Do they need any help with housing or clothing or medical expenses? So we have that full-time support built in as well. So then once we kind of had the model worked out, we then worked with our committee on what are the enabling conditions for the sites that where we will place our apprentices. We know that it's really important, especially in terms of equity of experience, that we've got some basic conditions in place for the sites that we use. So we really dug deep on defining strong leadership, defining what do we mean when we say a strong mentor teacher, like what does that look like? We talked with providers about having some release time during the day for students to do coursework. How much time did they think would be reasonable for that? How will centers be able to make that work to support their apprentices? And then just ask them, like, what else do we need to think about that we weren't thinking about from our lens at Dallas College? So like we just this second got approved. So last week, we have been approved for 2 early childhood apprenticeships by the Department of Labor, an early childhood paraprofessional, as well as an early childhood educator. The apprenticeships can total up to 4 years to give students, if they want to go for their bachelor's degree, we can have them in an apprenticeship the entire time. So right now we are currently recruiting students, which is exciting, and we will launch this coming August. So we're kind of full steam ahead and really excited to get this going. So that is the end of my presentation. I hope that that gave you a little bit of overview of the process we went through, and of course, happy to answer any questions you might have.
That's amazing, actually. And so how many apprentices will you have in the fall?
So our goal for the fall is 20 to 25. Since we're just starting and trying this out, we want to make sure that we're not overextending ourselves. So we'll start small and then learn the lessons we need to learn from that first group, and then we'll expand from there.
Great. Okay, I want to open up the floor to anybody who has questions of either Heather or Elizabeth.
Good morning. Hi, I'm sorry. I came in a little late. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Good, good. I guess maybe I missed it. Is the apprenticeship that you guys are implementing, is this where I understood that you guys are actually hiring teachers, instructors, EC instructors, or as far as the cohorts are concerned?
So yeah, we'll use current Dallas College staff so for next year, we have one staff member that we've pegged to use for this first cohort. Her background is early childhood education. She's taught with us for several years, and she'll be a wonderful professor for this group.
Okay, okay, yeah, okay, that clarifies it. Because we have like a prototype that we were trying to implement, but it did involve having it didn't involve college instructors, so that's kind of interesting that you brought that up. And then I think I just had another question, just to kind of clarify the slide where you showed the total of 4 years. You said
Uh-huh.
it was 2. So is it they're starting as paraprofessionals and then they're
Yes.
educated? Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah, that's our model, is they'll start as a paraprofessional and then move in depending on, how long they want to do it. I think the last year, we will need them. Our conversations with employer partners will be, they may still be designated a paraprofessional, but they'll need to take on often sort of more of the lead teacher role as they really hone those skills.
okay. So is the paraprofessional also defined as how many courses they completed? I mean, in order to go to the educator role?
No, it doesn't necessarily have to be related to the number of courses completed. It's more about them having that support that they need from a mentor teacher, until, it may be that, depending on our partners, if they're childcare focused partners, that it may be they feel after a certain amount of time they're ready to be a lead teacher, but then we just want to make sure that we've still got that close mentorship happening for them.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Tina Smith is asking, what type of assistance are you giving for housing?
So that varies. Dallas College has a really sort of active student support team that can handle anything from food assistance to, other financial needs. So I don't have like a specific, this is what we can do in terms of vouchers, but we do have a large support team that sort of looks at all options and can help with a variety of needs that our students may face.
Thank you. Elizabeth, we'd like to hear more about the vision behind the fellowship for future researchers.
Yeah, so I will say, Tara, it's still in development, so anything that I say could change. So, but the idea behind it is to build all the pathways for early educators. And so this would be a continuation of the pathway. If we continue to educate, would be to be able to be involved in research and policy, and be able to affect change. And so what we're hoping to do is have some part-time fellowships, and I think it will only be a couple, but we'll do it in a cohort, so that a cohort will come in, and then the next year we'll have another cohort, so they'll all be able to build upon each other's experiences. And we'll have a couple that will be focused specifically on research, and a couple that will be focused specifically on policy. And what we hope to do is recruit from the field, so that we can recruit educators who have the experience in the classroom, in the settings that need our attention the most. And so we're hoping to have folks that have that experience, as opposed to outside of the early education context and setting. And so it is going to be a couple, and what we hope to do is to have some of them housed, but not necessarily physically housed, but housed at CSCCE, and then also some of them with child trends as well, so that we'll be able to provide the mentorship for them.
Great, thank you. Okay, you answered that in the text. Okay. Somebody asked, is Dallas College the registered apprenticeship sponsor? Our next meeting, we're actually going to be talking about, I think it's June 1st, we're going to be talking about intermediaries and the difference between an intermediary and a sponsor, and there'll be a panel of presenters to talk about that. So if people are interested, let Rachel know, or after this meeting, we'll figure out a way to get in touch and let you know when the next presentations will be. How many of you are actually doing apprenticeships or trying to get an apprenticeship started? And of course, I can't see any of these little boxes, Rachel. Is that like Terry Johnson raised her hand? Terry, are you starting an apprenticeship or trying to?
Well, we actually started, well, we were trying to about a year ago. We just designed a prototype as far as procedures and stuff. And then we kind of pulled back, just trying to get, more information, looking at our different options. So that's why, I'm trying to get more information in terms of how other programs are implementing it. So as much information I can get is very good. So I can take it back to our ADs, assistant directors. So I'm definitely interested in the Apprenticeship Work Circle just to get more information.
Okay, so put your information in the chat and Rachel will be in touch about that then. Where are you located?
I am with Crystal Stairs. I'm in Los Angeles, California.
Okay, know it well. Thank you. Somebody asked about financial assistance for Dallas College. Are students still responsible for their own financial aid for the cost of their education?
Great question. So I just put in a quick answer, but we actually are accessing other dollars and still searching for other dollars to cover their tuition. So we've got some, I think they're called HERF dollars, higher education, COVID funding that we're able to use to cover tuition. We're also working with our regional workforce board for being able to access some of those dollars to cover tuition. So yeah, for this first group, we've got it covered, and then we'll just continue to look for other opportunities to find those dollars, because we do want to cover the tuition for students.
Definitely going to be a future discussion in terms of how we fund these apprenticeships, including the part where we're paying apprentices to work, because that's part of the deal on this thing.
Yeah.
So,
and then, sorry, Pam, I saw another question from Marjorie about how we were recruiting employers. So, one of the ways that we've done that is we have a pretty big footprint in the community anyway with early childhood employers. And so a lot of that was just me sort of reaching out to some of the providers that I knew in the community, like Head Start Greater Dallas. We've had a great relationship for a long time. They've got 2 sites on our college campuses. So it really came from people that I've had relationships with. Childcare Group is one of the biggest, providers of the funding. I'm blanking on the name, of course, but they provide the childcare for people who are part of that subsidy system. Educational First Steps. They also have many childcare centers that they're working to help move them sort of up. It's called the Texas Rising Star system, their quality rating system. So a lot of subsidy employers, that's really who we were targeting. So it was really just building those relationships and spending time with them, explaining what the apprenticeship would be.
Great, thank you. Steve, you've got your hand up. Tell us who you are, where you're from, and what you're doing.
I'm a program supervisor with Macomb Head Start in Michigan. It's Tigers opening day, so we are
Dressed for the occasion.
We are a part of a pilot grant with the state of Michigan looking at apprenticeship programs and viability around the state. So we're in the planning stages of that and looking at both ourselves and private for-profit childcares and other folks in the area, but we run all of the Head Start for the county here. And one of the things that we're running into, and I had a question for any of you guys, is that do you have any assistance with kind of the basic needs stuff? Because we're seeing less and less early childhood candidates and more parents from the program, and it's not early childhood that gets in the way, it's rent, food, utilities, and those things. And so we're trying to build into our apprenticeship program some life coach, life skills kind of things and resources to help them with that.
Yeah, I'm going to answer that since we've been kind of operational for a while, and our biggest contract right now is with the county social service agency that is providing a cohort model and the supports that they're needed for families on TANF. And most of these people are parents in our program. So we recruit from our parent population, and every single apprentice has what we call a success coordinator. And the success coordinator is not a case manager. They're really their rah-rah cheerleader person that helps them get what they need. And they're sort of like family advocates in the program for the apprentices. So they'll refer them for housing, they'll find subsidies, they'll do whatever it takes to get them. We've had homeless students, we've had students who are like searching for food. We got donations during COVID to get, toys and food and diapers to the families as well as to the apprentices. They got gift cards for gas, and they're continuing to support them. But again, it's got to be built into your system to have those kind of supports, because if you can't eat, you can't study. It's the same thing with kids as with the adults. So that's a really good way to think about it, especially if you're trying to target parents to be participants, because it's really hard if life circumstances get in the way. One of the things that we've done is had on and off ramps, so that if somebody needs to take a break for a minute and go deal with life, they can come back in anytime they're ready, or like the next semester classes, and then we'll just absorb them into our next cohort. And that's made people feel less stress as a result of that too. All right, Linda, I know Rhode Island is really getting exciting. You're on mute.
Yes, yes, we're trying.
More on what you do.
So thank you, Pam. And actually, you really inspired us when I met you back in the fall at one of the NHSA conferences. We have early childhood classrooms, and I'm a director of a Head Start program in Rhode Island. And Rhode Island does have an apprenticeship pathway through its community college system. And its teach programs. What we found were that people were not even using these pathways. There was no desire for people to even get into the ECE workforce. So as a small program in Rhode Island, we decided that we would sort of try to create some excitement around the work. So we have a very small, locally designed, we call it an internship program. I'm not sure about the technical differences between internship and apprenticeship, but that's how we had labeled it originally. As I learn more, we might change things around, but I'm happy to report our first cohort. First, we had to find a coordinator. Our first cohort started this month, actually March. We had 13 applicants, of which 6 applicants made it through the process, and from those 6 applicants, we have 4 applicants. So I'm really writing notes that life coach, life skills, success coordinator, I think is really key. And again, we're learning it as we're floating it, and so trying to take all this information from people that have been doing it. We're already starting our second cohort that will start early June. We're out at high schools for people that maybe are focusing on early childhood education. And we are paying people to do the training and the work. And again, just building it as we're floating it, and hopefully can get some excitement about working in ECE, especially around infant toddler. They're, you know, in the Head Start world, they're called unicorns. So
Appropriate, I guess, for early childhood people. Somebody else had their hand up a minute ago, wanted to share something. Is anybody else working on apprenticeships that has a story they'd like to share? I do want to encourage, thank Linda, because everywhere she goes, she asks a million questions and really tries to pick our brains. And the more people ask questions, the more we look at our own models for those of us that are continuing to operate and, you know, make changes accordingly. I mean, I'm looking at that Dallas model and thinking, wow, wouldn't it be interesting to have one instructor for all your classes? Now, if it was a good instructor, it'd be awesome. But if it was somebody you're not like particularly fond of, that would be a problem. So that's really interesting. And for us, we work with multiple community colleges and have multiple cohorts and multiple levels. So we're a 3-tiered approach. We have entry level, that's like getting the equivalent of a CDA in California. It's getting an associate teacher permit, and then which is 12 units of ECE. The second level is AA degree, and the third level is BA degree. We're starting a new BA cohort this fall, and we had an orientation with the local college that we're working with. And the first day that they opened the registration, we had 14 people apply. By the end of the week, there were 21. And so I just built in some funding to pay for 20 of those people, assuming that there'll be some shifting around. And they will start in the fall. They will be done in 2 years. They come in with AA degrees from the college, most of whom have gone through our program and have completed their apprenticeship with us. So we're really excited. We've had 31 people complete BA degrees to date. And so that's kind of the carrot for people. People don't want to come in and just make, you know, entry-level wages forever. They really want to do this. And all of our head teachers that are in the BA cohort are mentoring the entry-level people. So there's a kind of a cycle of support that keeps going on. That's very exciting to see. Chantel, you've got your hand up. Tell us who you are, where you're from, and what you're doing.
Sure. My name is, no worries. My name is Chantel. How you doing? Welcome. Thank you guys for having this. This is so exciting. My name is Chantel Green. I am based in South Carolina, Columbia, South Carolina, and I'm the founder, co-founder of Early Education Career Institute. We are a national public-private program that houses, supports apprenticeship throughout the nation. So we're a very unique model. And I believe we might be maybe it's only one of us that actually is not affiliated with the state organization or a program of such. We actually collaborate with the Head Start programs across the nation. And we started our program supporting credential model. So we are so excited to say we have 15 completed apprentices for this year. So that's exciting. And they started out, I think, in 2022 and completed this year through micro-credentialing. So similar to the Dallas model. My question is, is there any way to be a part of the task force as you guys are creating this type of network? And is there any way for agencies or institutes to kind of be a part of any of the works that are spearheading, so that we can kind of support streamlining and have an opportunity to discuss how we're all doing things or creating like best practices as we're looking at some of the challenges that we may all be experiencing from time to time?
Yeah, absolutely. Put your name and contact information in the chat or send it to the address there. That's NHSA virtual.
Okay.
If you just put your information in the chat, she'll add you to the work circle information. Or
Awesome.
it says contact Rachel Hutchinson at nhsa.org. R. Hutchinson.
Thank you
Just email her.
so much.
Yeah, the group is open. We meet once a month on the first Thursday of the month. Today's the first, yes. First Thursday of the month. And it's probably one of the better meetings I go to every month because I learn every time something new from somebody new. And that's been great. And it's, you know, and it's a national perspective. It's not just like my little box in California that I can get absorbed in really easily. It's looking at what's happening in other parts of the country and getting ideas for how to use funding and what kinds of structures are in place. Hearing programs that are just learning now and growing and learning from their experiences as they take time to plan. I feel like we just jumped into this head first, and then we're kind of back cycling to fix some of those things now that we've been in it for such a long time. So good question I see is from Marjorie. Marjorie, you've got lots of good questions. For everyone running in a registered apprenticeship besides Head Start parents, how are you recruiting apprentices? Heather, you want to answer that first? And anybody else can come in when she's done.
Sure. So it's sort of a twofold approach. So we're really working, like, for example, our Head Start Greater Dallas team. I work closely with their director of operations and CEO. And so since they were kind of in on the planning committee all year, they know the nuts and bolts. So I'm really relying on them to, you know, share this opportunity with their staff. And then I go and also do presentations for their staff to explain it. And then with our Dallas College students, that's really what our senior success coach that I mentioned, we use some of the funding for. She is reaching out to our associate level early childhood students, those that are on the track, and really doing email blasts and text blasts. And then we have a whole application process. She connects with those students individually to really talk more in depth about the program. And so it's using our employer partners to make that initial ask of their staff. Then we come in and do individual information sessions. And then it's also the other side of our current students.
Okay. For us, you know, in addition to parents, we have, like I told you, that agreement with CalWorks, which is targeting TANF recipients. So we work with the Department of Social Services to get the word out through their workability, workforce things. We're trying a couple of things this year. We've got a grant to train adults with disabilities. We've already hired 2 of the graduates of the program, and they're working towards their AA degrees. And we're now working with a local group and the Department of Rehabilitation to look at people who really want to work with kids and just need some extra support to do it. So this is like my favorite new thing that we're doing. The other thing we're doing is approaching high schools. You know, we're at a place now where we have to start younger, and we have to make people aware of careers in early childhood that are not dead-end jobs, and for people to really understand the joy of working with young kids. Like, I think most of us that are in the field now started somehow, some way when we were young as well. Somebody said, you know, oh, you're good with kids, you should try this, you know, or you just like working with kids. But, you know, young people don't always have opportunities to do that now. And especially for us to find young men who want to work with kids. So we're hitting the high schools. We also do a lot of presentations in college classes, like, you know, entry-level classes, to just let people know about the apprenticeship and how they can support it. Anybody for us who applies for a job who doesn't have 12 units in early childhood is put into the apprentice program if they want to work for us, if they want to work in or around a classroom, because they have to have the units to be there based on California licensing. Anybody else have other suggestions for recruitment or where you're recruiting from to find people these days? We've actually just hired 2 recruiters through our HR department who are kind of shaking trees these days. I'm not sure where they're going differently, but they're out and about everywhere now looking. We're also looking at the tech layoffs, because in the Bay Area, there's been huge technology layoffs, and some of these people made a lot of money in technology, and now they're saying they are applying for jobs, and they're saying, you know, they want to do some heart and soul stuff. You know, I'm sure they want the money, but that's not going to happen. Other questions, thoughts, comments? Let me check the chat and see if there's anything in there. Yeah, Tara put in information about the apprentice conference in early May. I don't know if there's any space in that conference at this point, but go to the ESEP's website and find out. It's one of the most fun places to talk about apprenticeships in early education. We spend literally 3 days talking nothing but apprenticeships in early childhood. And if you want some ideas and talk to programs that have been operational for a long time, programs that are just starting, people representing community colleges, people representing funders, there's a whole array of people that are at this conference that it's just an amazing opportunity to hear. And then you'll hear from 3 of our apprentices will be on a panel talking about their experience as apprentices, which is, I think, my favorite part of the conference. All right, we've got a few minutes left. Rachel put in that there's a webinar coming up on April 12th that's looking at prioritizing funding for wages. The woman who's presenting there has given her staff, I think, increases of $6 an hour over the last year as a result of how she's done some work with her funding. So really interesting stuff. And she's started an apprenticeship also. So she's already graduated her first and maybe her second cohorts and going on their 3rd cohort now. So. Questions, thoughts? Is there something that you would like to know in terms of apprenticeships that we can support in future webinars? Funding resources, yeah, we got that one down. There will be some Department of Labor funding coming in the next year, I believe. I'm not sure how much of it is going through the state governments till it trickles out. But I can just tell you right now that the language of workforce is a whole nother, you know, like when you get to Head Start, it takes you like a year to know all the acronyms and all the meanings behind Head Start. And, you know, if you're in state subsidized childcare, it's the same thing. They've got their whole network and language and words and terms and conditions and things like that. The workforce world is another whole system, but learn the words WIOA, W-I-O-A, because every state has WIOA funding. It's Workforce Investment Opportunity Act, and they have money that will pay up to half salaries for people in training. They'll pay for training. They'll pay for, this is particularly for low income people, for immigrants, for youth who are not in school. WIOA funding is like a huge amount of money that is available. And it's often not always spent at the local or state level. So a lot of times, yes, they come through local workforce development boards, or depending on what your state calls those things. I don't think they're all called local workforce development boards, but something with workforce in the title. But yeah, you can find workforce information at your state level. So what are programs doing to assist apprentices with childcare? Is there anybody? I mean, I can answer that from what we're doing. If the kids are under 5, we give them a priority to get into our program if there's space. If there's not, we refer them to the local resource and referral. The success coordinator works with them and with the Department of Social Services to find subsidies for them. Right now, enrollment is an issue everywhere, so it's not a problem getting people into childcare as much as it's been in the past. But I know by next year, that's not going to be the case anymore, and there'll be probably extensive wait lists again and people struggling to get into childcare. So, you know, we've got people who, once they start the program, they become friends with each other and they share childcare. Our focus is on equity and what Heather was saying. So, you know, we're not looking at people who have all the resources to find things like that. And so we are looking at providing as many of the support services as we can. All right, we've got just a few minutes left, and Rachel is putting out all the stoppers here with all the stuff going on. National Head Start Conference is this month, isn't it? The end of this month. So if you're planning to
In
attend,
May, second week of May.
okay. I knew it was soon though. Any last chance for comments, questions? Heather, Elizabeth, you want any final comments?
I will just add that, we're really excited about the center, and we will be sharing out more as more develops and gets solidified in our plans. But we really do have an emphasis on integrating research and practice and technical assistance and policy all together. So we're hoping that we really will be able to affect some change for the field. So we'll keep you all informed. It keeps going along.
Yeah, we're really excited. Thank you so much. We're so jazzed about that. Heather, final words?
Just thanks for the opportunity to present, and I'm sure I'll be leaning on you as we actually roll this out next fall.
Yeah,
So
good luck. This is so
I
exciting.
really appreciate the work circle meetings because they're so helpful for those of us who are just getting started in this journey.
Great, thank you. And you've all got Rachel's email address if you'd like to join the work circle or be on our mailing list. And on that, I'll let you go 2 minutes early. Thank you all for being here.